Welcome to the Podcaster, the home of Farcaster builders. Hello, everyone. We are now recording the fourth episode of the Podcaster with Moxie. Thank you so much, first of all, Jason, for doing this podcast. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, we can maybe start with a very short introduction of what Moxie is.
Yeah, sure. So, in a nutshell, Moxie is the economic engine of Farcaster. What we enable is for economic incentives to be woven through the entire Farcaster experience. Anyone can provide rewards for helping grow Farcaster. That can be in the form of rewarding for quality content, for quality frames, for quality development, for using Farcaster applications, clients. And when those rewards are provided, those rewards are automatically shared with the user and their fans. So one of the key concepts of Moxie is enabling people to buy fan tokens for Farcaster members, Farcaster channels, and the Farcaster network. So we have this really unique flow that whenever a reward is earned through the protocol, that reward is shared both with the person who earned the reward for whatever their action was, with their fans, and as well as with the fans of whatever channel or community that the content was casted into, help to give it distribution. And this creates a win-win environment for everyone in the Farcaster ecosystem, where there's rewards laid out for growing Farcaster, that the people who are helping it grow, whether it's through content, through development, whatever they might be contributing, are earning rewards from it, and that the people who are supporting other people are also able to share in those rewards. And so you have people buying into the Moxie ecosystem in order to offer rewards, and then distributing rewards to people in Farcaster for various actions. And then everyone in the community sharing rewards, and it's just recycling again and again into this Moxie economy.
Great. And I wonder, Jason, if you can explain what's the problem that Moxie is tackling.
Yeah, so the very simple problem that Moxie is trying to solve is how do we help the Farcaster network grow with offering that isn't you can't get in a Web 2 kind of social network. So when it comes to creating social networks and creating kind of platforms for app and developers and content creators to thrive on, there's lots of choices out there already. We can't just pretend that Web 2 doesn't exist. And in order to get people to try new platforms, we have to develop new ways for them to grow and prosper that they can't do in the old models. And so one of the problems that we looked at is in Web 2, when someone creates content or when someone creates an application or something that is adding value to the network, that most of that value actually goes to the platform itself. And we looked at how do we flip that model on its head and instead make it so that the creator, whether the creator is a content creator or a builder, that they're extracting more value, they're gaining more value for what they're contributing to the social networks, contributing to the platform, and that value is also shared with the people who support them.
I see. And I wonder if you can explain how Moxie works and how is Moxie solving that actual issue.
Yeah, and so the way that Moxie solves kind of how do we redistribute kind of value to the creators rather than to the platforms is one is Moxie is an open protocol, so anyone can build with it. And the way the protocol works is very simple at its core. It enables anyone to buy these things called fan tokens, which basically you can become a fan of any member on Farcaster or any channel community or even for the overall Farcaster network. And being a fan is like being a super follower, but also you have skin in the game. And skin in the game in the sense that you're using your money to buy these fan tokens and that you get access to special benefits and features that any developer is able to provide for holders of fan tokens. And you also get to share in the rewards that are earned by whoever you're a fan of. And so you think what this does in terms of kind of flipping the model on its head is a creator creates content that gains popularity on the platform. Instead of it being the social network itself, like in a Web 2 model that's advertising against that and earning money against it, instead in the Moxie model, that creator earns through every engagement that people do with their content. And the fans who are supporting the creator, they all earn as well. And if the content was created or casted into a specific channel or community, that channel and community's fans also earn by providing distribution of that content. It's almost like, well, it's if you want us to help you grow, you share in some of the rewards of that growth. And so this whole kind of model creates this, and whether it's for content creation or being a great frame developer based on who uses your frame, or for using kind of Farcaster related applications, this model enables people to basically the community to grow together in a way where it's win-win environment. And it's also lures in kind of third parties, advertisers who say, okay, as Farcaster grows, they say there's a model in place, a system in place where if I want to reward people for taking certain actions, or I want to get people to try my product, or I want people to, let's say, I can provide through Moxie special access for fans and enable like the kind of let's say you want to reward someone for trying your product, for continuing to use the product, to have this kind of these rewards constantly flow, not just to the person who created it or did the work, but also to all the people who are supporting them. And so this kind of economy that's we developed with Moxie inside of Farcaster, it's only 3 weeks old and it's growing tremendously. That's one of the things that we've just been, super excited about so far is the way that the Farcaster community has taken to Moxie, and the numbers are just extraordinary. I mentioned these fan tokens. There's 2.6 million fan tokens that have been purchased by Farcaster members, and 200 million Moxie is locked up in the Moxie protocol in order to back these fan tokens. And perhaps the kind of extraordinary number, there's already been by the most conservative counts, there's already been 47 different third-party applications and frames that have been built on the Moxie protocol. And every single one of these applications and frames that are built on Moxie, they provide more value to people who are using Moxie and using Moxie fan tokens. So it continues to support the ecosystem growth overall. So that's just been extraordinary for us.
Very cool. So I wonder, Jason, how does Moxie differentiate from like the other tipping mechanism that we saw in the last time, a few months coming up on Farcaster?
Yeah, so look, we've been a student, like we've been observing Farcaster for a couple of years. Again, like I have 180,000 followers on Farcaster. I've been very active in the network for for over 2 years now, and we saw solutions pop up that we thought were like, let's say, a V1 of what the future could look like. And in those solutions, like we first had Degen and kind of like Degen copycats who were people who tried to create different variants of what Degen was doing. Let's say we had them basically say, if you want to tip someone, that you would get an allotment, an allocation of tips from kind of a community pool, and then you would reply to someone with like tip 500, tip 1,000. And we saw that as interesting because it saw people kind of proactively kind of taking some time or kind of like adding these tips into these messages. We didn't think it's the right long-term solution. That first of all, it can be a little spammy for people who are just reading through comments to see all this kind of tip this, tip that, and just felt like it also required the user to do too much work. And so what we reimagined is, what if tips just happen based on the buttons that are already there in the clients that people are using? So you tap the like button, it automatically transfers value to someone. You reply, it automatically shows that you have added more value as well, or that you appreciate the content, or you recast or quote cast, and that contributes more value as well. And so what we did with Moxie is we use what we call a FAR score, which is a metric of the influence someone has in the Farcaster network. And based on the FAR score of each person, when they engage with someone else's content, it automatically, quote unquote, tips that person. And it tips based on this FAR score, which the FAR score is a measure of, if I take an action on this cast, let's say I like it or I recast it, how many other people are going to benefit from my action? So in a social network, you have everything goes through feeds and through people who are following. Is how many other people are going to likely to take notice or kind of do something because of my action? And so we think that this method, one is it doesn't require you to proactively tip. The tips just happen. And so just, it basically transfers value based on organic engagement. And then the second is it's based on a system that is really just measuring the influence someone has in the network and how much they're contributing towards a piece of content, gaining more traction, going more viral. And so far, it's working incredibly well. We're very happy with how it's working.
Great. So Jason, I wonder, how are you planning to capture users? Like, what's the strategy in order to get people to use Moxie?
Yeah, so this is going extremely well so far. So we're only 21 days into this, and we already have, as I said, 2.6 million fan tokens that have been purchased by Farcaster members who've locked 200 million worth of Moxie into the Moxie smart contracts to create these fan tokens. And the way that first kind of acquisition went is we first started off with a curated list of fan tokens that were released. We had 1,236 Farcaster builders people who've been really active and engaged in the network who joined a builders program that we had before the Moxie launched 3 weeks ago. And we selected a couple hundred of them, and we launched their fan tokens first in a very kind of curated manner. And then we've had over 6,000 Farcaster members who reached out to us and said that they would like to launch their own fan tokens for either themselves or a channel that they host. And we started to add a few more, so we had like 400 or 500 until like the middle of last week. And then we made the whole thing permissionless. And so now it's permissionless. Anyone can launch their own fan tokens. And when you do so, everything's happening within frames on Farcaster. So you launch your fan tokens. First, there's an auction. So that creates a little bit of kind of like a bidding frenzy, kind of awareness on its own within inside of Farcaster. People are casting out, buy my fan tokens in the auction before it hits the kind of public market. And so this creates this kind of like awareness already within the Farcaster ecosystem. And so every time someone does a transaction, every time someone kind of buys or sells a fan token, it also is shared out to the networks. And it was 914 million, so almost a billion kind of volume of kind of fan token transactions in the last 3 weeks. Pretty extraordinary. And then the ultimate way that kind of the word keeps getting out is two ways. One is there's 47 third-party applications of frames that have built using Moxie and fan tokens, and all of those frames and applications provide more and more distribution, more and more awareness of the system. It kind of weaves it more into the core Farcaster kind of user experience in various different ways. And then ultimately, it's all about value creation. When people see that owning fan tokens provides them with special benefits and features that you don't have if you don't have the fan tokens, if people are seeing that it's very valuable for them to own fan tokens, the word spreads. And, when creators are telling other creators, hey, I earned a living this week on Farcaster, or a builder saying, hey, I earned this money for my frame on Farcaster this week, then other people come into the system.
Great. So I wonder, Jason, like, what do you ambition of Moxie? How do you think Moxie will look like 3 or 4 years from now?
Yeah, so I mean, look, first of all, we are 100% committed to the Farcaster network, the Farcaster ecosystem. And one of the gaps that we saw was that they have a great technology infrastructure and a great community emerging for a on-chain social network. But there was a lack of kind of economic incentives within the Farcaster protocol, and we're very close to the Farcaster team, and they said that they were not working on that. They're not building that. And so we said, okay, there's a great opportunity for Moxie to be the economic engine of Farcaster, to be the Farcaster kind of catalyst, and to really grow the GDP of Farcaster. So our number one kind of first win is if we can be the reason, if we can be one of the kind of the catalysts for why Farcaster grows to 100,000 daily active users, 500,000, a million, 10 million, 100 million. That's the first kind of like big win for us, is like the flywheel going of like all these actions that Moxie is enabling is helping grow Farcaster. That's like the first kind of big flywheel we're focused on. And then the win for us then is that, when people think of how are creators, kind of earning a living, how are builders getting rewarded for what they're building, how are people making money through their Farcaster applications, that the answer is always Moxie, and that we are the enabler, the catalyst for that across the whole Farcaster network, and that's bringing in more and more people to build on Farcaster and to add their content to Farcaster and growing the overall pie for everybody.
So Jason, there's something that I didn't ask you before, which is like, who's building Moxie? What does the team look like? What does your previous background look like?
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, and I've been obsessed with kind of creating new models of social networks throughout my career. The first company I founded called Social Media, and we literally built the first newsfeed back in 2007. Before there was a Facebook newsfeed, we created a way for people to discover what their friends were reading across the internet every day. It was called Social Media. It grew to 6 million users very quickly, sold that company very quickly back then. The next company I created, Fab.com, we were pioneers in social commerce. We enabled people to discover products to buy through their friends. And that company became a unicorn very quickly. I went down the Ethereum rabbit hole in 2016. My dream was to create a decentralized social network that enabled creators to earn and the people who are supporting with them to earn as well. Literally back in 2016, we wrote a white paper for a new type of social network that would enable people to buy into supporting creators. And instead of when the creators earning money from their fans or their followers or from advertisers, instead of that money going to the platform, it said it would go to them and their fans. It was way too soon back in 2016. So we started building enabling technology for Ethereum. So like you couldn't build that on Ethereum layer 1. So we were working on how do we enable layer 2 scaling solutions. The wallets weren't very good enough at that time to have the kind of experiences we do today. So we were building smart contract wallets embedded in mainstream applications in the App Store. We actually launched an early version of, you can say, of Moxie back in 2018 at DevCon. And at DevCon Osaka in 2019, we kind of blew up a little bit. We had an app called Peepo, which was like crypto TikTok. And every time you tap the like, it would share rewards with the person who created the content. Went to about 10,000 users, was very active in like the Ethereum community. But again, it was just too soon. It was just like technology was still a little clunky and we're still kind of, and so we came back to it, over the last couple of years. Our company Airstack was focused on building tools that would make it easier and easier for people to build on-chain social applications. We started by providing tools for everything in on-chain social. It was POAP, it was Lens, it was Farcaster, it was XMTP, it was ENS, it was when base chain emerged. And then as we really saw the opportunity, we took the purple pill is what I say. We really saw that Farcaster was going to be the winner, and we still believe that with all of our convictions behind that. And so we jumped all into Farcaster bit by bit, and then very, very all at once over the last couple of years. And the team, I keep saying we, myself, my co-founder Sarvesh, my co-founder Ignis, we've all been working on the same problem since 2016. So we did the previous company together, and then we started Airstack together. And then we pivoted our entire business over the last few months to saying, okay, we've been working on these concepts for such a long time now. Let's go all in and let's launch it as a new protocol on Farcaster. And so Moxie is a 8-year overnight success. Let's call it that way.
Great. So we're approaching the end of the episode, but I would love to ask you before we close if there's any alpha you can share about Moxie.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, as I said, we've only been working on this for 3 weeks. We've been live, obviously working on it for a long time before that, but we've only been live for 3 weeks. The numbers are extraordinary in terms of the protocol usage so far, but yet we're still really just getting started. And over the next few weeks, the Moxie story is really going to take hold. There are numerous applications in the Farcaster ecosystem that are integrating Moxie in major ways. We had one that took a big step last week. Rainbow Wallet now integrates Moxie and Moxie fan tokens, and they're adding a lot more features to enable people to have the full experience of Moxie within Rainbow. Rainbow is the #1 wallet preference of Farcaster members, so that was a big kind of validation of Moxie and fan tokens. Supercast, which is the #1 client for Farcaster power users, started rolling out today and yesterday, and there can be a lot more going forward. Various features that help people who are using Moxie and fan tokens get more value from them. And then there's a whole number of new creator apps, new experiences that are integrating Moxie and Moxie fan tokens in a variety of really interesting ways. And then the next big one is there's a lot of advertisers, a lot of people who are looking at how do we leverage Farcaster and the early adopter kind of influencer crowd on Farcaster? How do we get them to try our product? How do we get them to engage with us? And they're looking at Moxie fan tokens as a way to make that possible in a way that works really well for people on Farcaster and for, let's say, the advertiser. And there's a lot in the works on that direction as well.
Great. Jason, I want to say thank you so much for coming to the podcast. I really appreciate your time. Super interesting what you're building. And yeah, really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much.